Pod Candy, a podcast about cults, crimes, and killers. Today, we're looking at a story that sits right at the intersection of fame, power, and control, inside one of the most recognizable shows in television history, The Price is Right.
For decades, it felt untouchable. Bright lights, simple joy, a host everyone trusted.
And at the center of it all was Bob Barker, a figure who built a reputation on warmth, consistency, and total command of that stage.
But offstage, the narrative wasn't nearly as clean. There were lawsuits, accusations, and a pattern of behavior that raised serious questions about what was happening behind the scenes.
This isn't about tearing down a legacy for the sake of it. It's about looking at the full picture, what power can look like when it goes unchecked, and how long it can stay hidden when the public image is so carefully maintained.
Because the same system that creates icons can also protect them.
And when the truth does come out, it forces a very different conversation about who we trust and why.
So today, we're taking a closer look, not at the game, but at the reality behind it.
Outside my window, it's only raining. When the wind blows, I feel pain. I don't need no doctor, baby, I'm not sick. My body's been locked up, heartbroken ever since.
This was an interesting episode to me. I had no idea that Bob Barker was such a sort of manipulative, controlling person. Did you?
Oh, Stacey.
It was so depressing.
He was the animal guy. He's the one who first taught me about spaying and neutering. Yeah, and being an animal lover. This crushed me. I really, honestly I'm not a big game show watcher. So I remember watching The Price is Right as a kid, but I wasn't like, I think there was maybe like a summer or two that I was into it. But other than that, I wasn't really that into it.
I was into it. I watched it a lot. I loved the
You were a
Grand Prize
showdown
game.
junkie? What is
I
it?
love that showdown. Wait, so not the Grand Prize game. That's Bozo. The showdown. That's the showcase showdown.
Right? Yeah, the showcase
showdown. And I loved that because you'd see the first prize, and the first prize was always kind of like a lame, like kitchen, like redo, or like a couch and a love seat and a coffee table. And that was always the first showcase. But then the second showcase was like Hawaii and a new car.
Right.
And that to me, I was like, everybody's going to pick the second one because the second one's always better.
Always.
I loved that show. I loved it, and I loved him. And here I am watching this, this documentary, one of the episodes of Dirty Rotten Scandals, which has other episodes featuring other people. But I never thought about this. And then once it's pointed out, he would make people put their hand in his pocket to get
Gross.
Things out
Are they
of it.
touching his dick? Like, why? What? Like
Who
the
does that?
contestants, right? Like,
Yeah.
wait. So we had
in my pocket.
So Richard Dawson, right, was like the kissing bandit on Family Feud, and then you had Bob Barker doing like the hand in the pocket thing, which is
A hand grab.
Can you imagine that nowadays? I do have to say though, I always loved the Barker Beauties because like I was always into Holly, who was actually one of the three Barker Beauties that actually took part in this documentary to talk about what a scumbag Barker and also the producers and really the whole really CBS or whoever the network was at the time, how awful they were. But Holly, I loved because Holly was the one with the darker hair. She had the red hair. She wasn't blonde, and she had the shorter hair, which I always appreciated.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember seeing those women then. And then when they were interviewed, I was like, wow, they had an important role in this show. But it didn't register with me. You know what I mean? Like back then, I was like, oh, they're pretty girls going like this, with their arms
Yeah.
presenting things and putting their hand over the car, and then having little jokes back and forth with Bob Barker. But I guess I never saw it negatively in any capacity.
Well, little did we know that Barker was banging Diane. So
Right.
Diane, one
Diane
of the
without an
beauties,
E.
right? Diane without an E, right? She lost that E probably to Bob Barker.
Yeah.
So they were kind of having a relationship for a while, right? So Barker had a wife for many years that he loved who passed away. And
that was sort of the turning point for him, wasn't
right,
it?
and as soon as she passed away, then he went down this like misogynistic, total asshole path where it's almost like, again, with these men, they're just emboldened to kind of like do whatever they want, say whatever they want, treat women so terribly. And it was well known, I guess, at The Price is Right, that like Bob and the producers treated women like second-class citizens.
There was a prevailing attitude that the men were the decision makers and women were just accessories.
If you look at the way the show was staffed back in the day, it was very much an old boys club. They're just so clearly from a different era. And Bob Barker, the guy with the power, he would dictate the culture of the workplace.
I had some recurring characters that I would play. I remember the French maid.
Yes, folks, our hardworking models are never finished until they've taken care of Bob Barker at home.
When we did sketches, everything was catered to Bob because he liked the attention and the power that it gave him. That was their mindset. Women should just be voluptuous, movable props. You know, you go out, you stand next to a boat, and you're wearing a bathing suit. They put us in bathing suits every opportunity they got. And they like to remind us, Janice, Diane, and I, that we were replaceable so that we would never feel secure. The producers would call us every week and say, we would like to use you this week, like we were just weekly contract players, when actually we were a huge part of the show. But they never wanted us to think that or know that. I remember one year, Frank came to me and said, we really need a model who can fill out a bathing suit. I would advise you to use your hiatus wisely. Meaning, I had to go get breast implants. And I had to pay for it myself. And they could do that back then. They could tell you, you're gonna get breast implants, and there was nothing you could say.
Would you consider it harassment, or would you consider it more just chauvinistic and, degrading?
I guess it would be maybe a little bit of both. I guess really the degrade, okay, so remind me, there was also a woman who worked, was it in the office there, or who worked on the show?
The woman that was one of the producers, I believe.
Producer.
I thought she was a producer. And she enjoyed the job, but it was not like ideal, the atmosphere.
Passed over, right? Was she passed over to be like the executive producer? So
I want to say yes.
That chauvinistic, degrading type of environment where men were kings and women just had to look good. That's how they thought about the whole. And Barker was an executive producer on the show, and he could have done things differently. So that's kind of what Linda the producer. Yes, Linda the producer, who was passed over for executive producer. But that's
she's a woman. She can't have a great job, right?
Right. Damn her. That's kind of,
Yeah.
Stacey, what I kind of got from all of, like, from watching it is that women literally were treated like shit on that show, but it ran, and it's still running now. I'm sure it's a totally different environment now.
Yes.
But
it's probably a different environment, but like ironically, I feel like the country right now is a little bit going back to that degrading women thing. I don't know. I'm afraid. But I even talked to somebody the other day. I don't remember where. Oh, my friend who's a music director and she works on Broadway. She told me how much she makes. She didn't tell me the amount that she makes at a job, but she said if I was a man, I would make way more than what I'm making. And I said, how do you know? She goes, because I know. I don't understand this mentality that developed and why it's continuing to be pervasive throughout everything.
Well, I think because it's like a lot of things are based in fear, and people have conflict because of fear. And the fear is that women are going to rule. And honestly, women do rule and men drool. That's just my thinking about it. But look at
I agree.
look at what happened too. So like the women who were fired over the years, like the Barker Beauties, a lot of them were fired. Producers were fired. A lot of
just
women
cleans house.
They just
cleans house when he needs to.
And then, but kudos to them for going up against these behemoths, these men in power, and suing them.
There's only so much a girl should take. They really did me dirty. I wasn't gonna sit around and just let this happen to me and be a victim. They messed with the wrong one. I remember the day. Came to work, and the end of every show, a model goes out and has the microphone and gets to like say hello to the audience. So I got the microphone, and I said, I just wanna say something. Damn, I can't believe I'm feeling like this already. I was like, I can't do this anymore. The stuff I have to deal with behind the scenes, I can't do it anymore. And I'm gonna miss this, but this is my last day. I found a lawyer that was representing Holly. Holly's case definitely gave me strength, and especially since I had the same lawyer. I felt like I had a great case, and they got hit with their paperwork the next day. They made my life a living hell, and I was determined to return the favor.
You've got Janice, who I think she's still alive, right? Janice, though, wasn't part of the documentary. And then Diane also sued because Diane was let go after she was having an affair with Bob Barker. And they would get into shouting matches, and then she was let go. And it's total harassment in the workplace. I mean, it's absolutely harassment in the workplace. But again, I go back to the whole thing that his image, Bob Barker's image, was one of this guy who was great. He's such a nice guy. He's your grandpa. He loves animals. And he was a total dick.
It's so many fans. I mean, people were like, remember lining up just Bob Barker. He's like, almost like represented like America or Americana, like this sort of like, this good looking, charismatic man in this show. And if you got on the show and you got your name picked, you'd run down and you'd see the girls' boobs bouncing up and down. It was like, it was like exciting.
We didn't even bring up the subject of racism. There was also racism going on.
Massive racist.
Bob Barker and the producers would be like, we can only have one black contestant at a time or one. So like, think about that. Think about having these ratios. And also too, with the Barker Beauties as well, they were kind of forced to bring on an African-American
Right, for optics.
I know Claudia Jordan was the later one. What was the woman's name who was interviewed in the documentary? Not Claudia, who really blew up this case. Like, she was one of the main ones who got when she was let go. But there was the one Kathleen
Bradley.
Kathleen Bradley, who was the first Black Barker beauty, and she was awesome. She sounded like
gorgeous.
A ton of fun. And she sounded
and cute.
And beautiful. And she sounded kind of more like, well, this is how it was, where I think the other women were like, F you to everybody. We're being treated like complete crap.
You know, the thing is that, you know, she was so happy to be on the show, and it was great for her. So there are two things working there. She knows about the racism and addresses that, but also there's the thing of, I'm here though. You know, she seemed very composed and really sure of herself. And then there was the second African-American woman.
That's Claudia Jordan.
That's Claudia, and she's gorgeous and funny.
She's a Real Housewife of Atlanta. She used to be on Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Oh, I didn't know that. But the thing that was the most really disgusting moment is when that African-American man tried to touch him or shake his hand, and he pulled away and he said, "Get away from me."
This was Bob Barker. He tried to touch Bob Barker.
Yes, on the show when they were spinning the wheel, and he was like, "Get away! Don't touch me."
And then I started to hear that they were only allowed to have 2 Black contestants on the show at a time. And that was a direct instruction from Bob Barker. And to let Barker know the race of the contestant that's about to come on down, they would have the letter B written on the card.
I think he just didn't care to be that close to somebody that was not white. It was pretty sad.
A Black contestant may try to hug Bob Barker, and he would kind of shrink away from them.
Everyone has won a car and the prize is up. You won a car. Yes, don't attack me. Don't touch me.
How shitty is that?
That culture of racism started at the top and trickled down. I think it's very sad because these are all people that are looking to live that dream, and as a fan of the show, is just super unfortunate.
I don't know what his problem is. I mean, I just think he's mental.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that, I think, epitomizes who the real Bob Barker really was.
Yeah, don't touch me.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I think that there have been, I think that there is a producer that worked on the show for like 38 years, I read, who came out with a kind of like a retraction thing, like, you weren't there, like, this is, you know, like, one day I'll talk about it. But I don't buy in to when people say, oh, those were the times. I get certain things were the times. I get that certain things were the times, but I don't like that as an excuse at all.
It's not a good excuse to be horrifying and racist and, you know, and sexist and all these things. Yes, of course. But again, like I said, it's all coming back. We're getting a resurgence of trad wives and, you know, traditional women not working or voting or doing anything. But I tell you guys, like, whenever I go on this tangent, you guys.
I love a trad wife reference. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, these women, especially Holly, I have to tell you, she was extremely brave to go. She had a lawsuit that she brought up against Bob Barker, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Dr. John can. She said they settled that, but she did not give up on that lawsuit.
It took years and years and years, and they were not making that much money as the Barker Beauties.
10 years. Our man who's in the room, he might be embarrassed to come in. If he, you know, he's going to be embarrassed to come in to be with all these women.
I have one thing to say before we invite invite.
Yes,
The doctor.
I agree.
So
to join John's Beauties.
Oh yeah, we're Mayor's Beauties.
Mayor's Beauties, yeah.
We're Mayor's Beauty. Actually,
especially now,
Dr. John is our beauty.
He is a beautiful man, isn't he?
Let's be realistic. But something that just made me think about this really has nothing to do with The Price is Right. However, it has something to do with like thinking like things back in the day are bad and now they're good. Oh, Dr. John, he through the little tiny peephole, he wrote Mayor's Maidens.
We are Mayor's Maidens.
Yeah. But I did want to just bring up this really quick thing because this made me think about like what was like, you know, what we say was okay back in the day and now. I was listening to sports radio, which I often do. Actually, it's really the only thing I listen to when I'm driving.
It's a window into your life. I like it.
Yeah. It's only sports radio. But they had a guy on who they have on all the time. But he mentioned that an athlete was wearing a wife beater. And I went, oh, literally in my mind, I'm like, are we still referring to sleeveless shirts as a wife beater? Or
yes, we are.
I remember also back in the day, we would say Dago tee. Did you ever say that?
Yeah. I don't know if I personally said it, but I heard it.
Right. But like, that's kind of what we would refer to like one of those, like, you know, like, but hearing it in 2026, as I was driving, hearing a wife beater, I went, oh my God. I was like, how disgusting that he would say that. I don't know. I'm sure no one said one word. It's all guys, obviously, talking on sports radio, but it clocked to me for sure. And that's kind of what I think about, like, with all of this, like, you know, like Barker, there's no excuse for that type of behavior, even back in the day, but especially
there's no excuse.
Now.
Well, and also of a man of that in much importance, but you know what a wife beater always reminds me of, and I don't like to say that at all, is like Stanley Kowalski in Streetcar. You know, it's like that character with a cigarette and a tattoo and a beer and screaming. You know,
well,
that's
there's a reason why we call it that. It's a reason why I guess that they used to refer to it as a wife beater, and why in 2026 we should never refer to.
Can't we just call it an undershirt? Which is what it is.
Wait, so we were told that we have listeners in Kazakhstan. So hopefully in Kazakhstan, they are not utilizing this phrasing for a sleeveless shirt. And on that note, I think we need to bring in the doctor.
Yeah, I think it's time. He's wearing a undershirt, not a...
Just as a correction for our audience, I have a tie and a shirt on and a tab collar and a vest.
But he's not wearing any pants.
Exactly. Oh, wow. He's wearing jeans, actually, which is cool. That looks nice.
Cool. I can be cool every once in a while.
Cool. You're very cool.
As usual, both of you, I sit in this green room and it's torture because there's so much that I want to comment on, you know, and I think the theme of this, our episode is, you know, remember that old song, you both would know this song better than I, don't let your, what is it, Mom, don't let your boys grow up to be cowboys or something.
Don't let your babies grow up to be
cowboys.
Well, I think the theme of our show is don't let your babies grow up to be models, because it seems like all they get is to be abused and objectified and subjugated by the male oligarchy that exists throughout the whole world, you know. And yeah, I in discussions like this, and I mean this sincerely from my heart, I often am so embarrassed to be a guy because look at the treatment of these women on this show is absolutely abusive, appalling. You know, I often use a term in the podcast of psychological murder. It's like these women are changed for the rest of their life because of what this total pig ass, had done to them. And a couple of things you said that I'm curious about. Dori said that things changed once his wife died, but I don't know. I didn't get that. I thought this was brewing for a long time, which
That's
makes him
just how
more
they
of a
introduced it,
makes him more of a pig, by the way.
Well, and I think, didn't they say that she kept him kind of in check? Like she was like, and I don't know. I did get the sense that he was, listen, John, you're the one who's the doctor. You can definitely tell us, like, obviously he was the way he was his whole life. Like it doesn't just change because of the wife, but maybe it becomes more emboldened that he can just be so awful to women and others once she passed away.
Well, it's like that serial killer we talked about who was the truck driver, right? And when he was at home, he was, the adulting husband, and, obedient. But the freedom he got being on the road unleashed the monster. And I think that dynamic is operating here with Bob Barker. And I hadn't thought about that listening to the show, the documentary. But now that I think about it, away from home, he was this monster. At home, maybe he was, the all-American guy was it Mary Jo was her name? Dorothy Jo. Dorothy Jo was his wife. High school sweetheart. You both were saying, this guy was portrayed as, just the epitome of an American male.
Right.
And maybe
all
he
American.
was, because he was underneath, he was an absolute monster pig,
Yeah.
No
redeeming qualities at all.
I don't think so. I never watched the show like you both did. So when you both talked about having people put their hands in his pocket to get notes or get clues for the game?
A clue, or like reach into my pocket and take out a coin or whatever, or a ticket. I can't remember, or $1.
Did he get an erection when they did that?
That's a good question.
Was it visible on the cam? You see a little pup tent.
Well, this one was on E. And this documentary was on E, so I don't think that they could really go into it too much, right?
Right.
Probably not. But the thing, the way he interacted with those people in the audience was just really schmoozy and really and making them feel like there was something. I never saw it this way, but I always saw it as positive. He's just a nice guy and he's a game show host. But now looking back on all that stuff, because I told you I watched the show a lot with him.
You mean together with him? You were holding hands on a couch?
I was with
him?
Bob Barker. Yes. Holding his hand, staring into his deep eyes. Yes, Dori.
Well, no, you had mentioned the thing about the black man coming after him. What about the women too who wanted to kiss him? If it was an African American woman they did that clip and he was running away, like he was running away from a fire burning.
Right.
That just shows the character of him and the racism and the disgustingness that was Bob Barker.
Next thing you know, I get a call from Bob's girlfriend. And everyone knew that Bob was cheating on her with Diane. And she said, I know that Bob is sleeping with Diane. And I said, well, let's put it this way. She dates a lot. And she targets celebrities. And she said, oh, like who? And I rattled off this list of celebrities, including several black men. And she said, oh my gosh, Bob has no idea that he has had sex with a woman who has had sex with black men. Bob has always said that black men are the most diseased people on earth. It was horrible. It was horrible. Was I surprised? No. He fit the profile. Rich, old, white, entitled, racist.
And you know what is ironic about his racism is that I did a little Stacey investigation after I watched the documentary, because there was nothing on the documentary about his upbringing or him before he was a talk show host. Whereas a lot of our documentaries give at least a little hint, and then our job is to do what we do, which is the how and why behind things. So I looked up because there's nothing on him about his upbringing. So I did a little digging, and he was raised on a Indian reservation. His
Really?
father is 1/4 Indian, Lakota Sioux in South Dakota. Mother was a school teacher on the reservation. Now she has no Indian blood, but or had past tense, no Indian blood. But isn't it ironic? He was so racist and he was American Indian, a minority.
So interesting.
Yeah, I found that to be fascinating.
That's not what I expected you to say.
Yeah. Did it make him maybe angry at, minorities? Did he? And I have a tie-in to a lot of things, and I might as well spew it out right now. His whole animal rights persona,
campaign or whatever. Yeah.
Think about this. Is that let's spay and neuter. Interesting. Spay and neuter. And how did he treat the women on the show? In a sense, like objects or animals. He treated them a lot like he would probably have treated an animal. Remember, there was Janice, who you both referenced, and she was mentioned on the documentary. If you recall, she fell on the stage.
That was
during
bad.
one of the tapings.
Yes.
Bob treats it like as if, your cat fell off the porch or whatever. It's just like, okay, the show must go on. We don't attend to it. There was no empathy. I mean, that stark coldness just came over him. So my point is that there's some type psychological tie-in between him and all this animal stuff, and even spay and neutering.
Well, I think that Betty White is rolling in her grave right now, because Betty White was an angel with animals. I
would not ever, Betty White is my god. So I am not gonna,
Well, let's take Bob Barker away from the cause, and let's move all of our energy over to Betty White for animals.
But it is interesting. Do you think he chose this platform, or do you think it was given to him so that he would, so it would show some sort of outreach of some kind to some kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like, why animals for him?
He liked animals. They showed him with some dog. I'm sure he did have an affinity for animals, but he really did. It wasn't just the platform of adopt an animal. His thing was spay and neuter, which I do think is a cause that a lot of people do not talk about ever.
No, I agree. I'm
a big proponent of it.
My dog just got spayed.
As am I. But again, think of that tie-in. I don't know if you're both getting the tie-in I'm making. Animals and women. You pet them. You dress them. Maybe put a little bows in their hair.
You dress them up.
You dress them up. You get them groomed. Not like Stacey grooms her dog. That was a little bizarre. But
don't talk like that. She's sitting here.
Yeah, I hope her hair is growing out.
Her hair is growing in, yeah.
Dori and I were ready to call the authorities.
You guys were embarrassed. I know. I'm so sorry.
It was almost cruel.
So are you making?
You see that tie-in? You see that tie-in with him and animals?
Are you saying that we need to sterilize people? Did he have children? I forgot.
I don't know if I see that, but I can recognize it. But I think he treated women like complete and utter garbage, because as he grew in his career and got more power, it's usually about the power. he was emblazoned to do whatever the F he wanted to do. That show was going nowhere. It wasn't going to be canceled. He could do it. It made like great ratings. It was the #1 game show. Why would he have to treat women well or treat, minorities well? He didn't have to.
Well, that brings me to the meat of the psychological analysis of this guy. What we're seeing is narcissism develop purely because the early tapes of him, remember the early tapes when he first got to be the host of the show? He's just this enthusiastic, eager, shiny guy. It's great to be on here. And you see, if you look carefully, you see him develop rather into the Bob Barker that you're talking about. I'm in control. The contestants can't come and touch me. Blatantly on the air, and it was kept in the taping of the show where that black guy was chasing him to shake his hand, and he's going, "No, leave me alone! Don't!"
It was really disgusting, and
it was disgusting,
and very like raw. Like, because, maybe Bob didn't expect to have that response, and it was ugly.
Yeah,
it made me embarrassed. It made me embarrassed.
But so telling. So telling of this guy's pathology.
Yeah.
And what I want to tie in is this narcissism, how it developed. Again, he comes on, he's, bright and shiny and eager to do this, and then he develops into this ogre. So what we have here, and this is so important for our audience, is unchecked narcissism. He created when, as Dori said, or was it Stacey, that, he became executive producer. The documentary did a good job of how he built himself to be in total control of the show, above even the producer, who was a nepotism hire. And he sounded like he was a total pig. But he builds this empire, and he's unchecked.
When Bob took over executive producer, he controlled with an absolutely ruthless iron fist. If something happened on set, like if he didn't have a prop that he was supposed to have, or if there were stop downs during taping, if it made him angry, he had to just shred someone, a cameraman, a cable puller, anyone, venting his rage without ever considering how humiliating this was to whoever he was shredding. And he didn't care. He didn't care.
And the message for our audience is, the key to dealing with a narcissist is you have to set rules and boundaries for these people.
I wish that we could talk to our government about that as well, setting those boundaries.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but that's the key.
What do you think? Do you think the power created the monster, or do you think the monster was there and just fed on the power?
That's tough to say because we don't know too much about the background. I have a theory because, again, it's just really spotty information on his upbringing. Mm-hmm. But a couple of these facts make sense to me as a forensic psychologist, and that is the following. He was an only child, grew up, his dad was an electrician that worked on the power lines. And so he was gone, he was a foreman. So he would have jobs that were, remote all the time. So you have absent father because of his work. You have a only child, mom's a school teacher, lives on a reservation. I got a feeling he was a spoiled, center of the universe kind of boy, Mm-hmm. And he was essentially, here's the other aspect of that. Indian reservation, he's only an eighth Indian because his father was a quarter Indian. So he's the white boy on the Indian reservation. He's special. So we have this young man that grows up special. I'm the special one. He was a basketball player, got a scholarship to, and this is in the 40s. when scholarships were rare. He was a basketball player. He was a World War II pilot. Never got into combat, but he was trained in the military as a pilot.
That's interesting.
Special all around him. There's the development of narcissism.
Did he have kids? I can't remember.
No children.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
He made a statement that this is almost somewhat admirable, but I'll tell you the psychological reason behind it. He said, Dorothy, Joe, and I decided not to have children because, we didn't feel we could devote the time to them. But what does that say? A child would take away from, I'm the center of the world. The child would take some of that attention away from me, and I want the spotlight all the time. And I'm sure, that's what he got. Well, that's what he created in this whole universe. That's why I say narcissism unchecked. It's that everybody just fed into that. Bob, you're great.
You know what I'm curious about? I'm curious, because he was banging Diane, and that went on for years. But I wonder, this was not addressed at all. But I wonder if he was because he did have that wife, Dorothy. What is it, Dorothy Joe? You keep saying Dorothy Joe.
Dorothy Joe.
I wonder if he was a relationship guy. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like he wasn't really that much of a cheater and a philanderer. At least this documentary didn't go into that at all. Not that it would mean anything one way or another, but I am curious, with Diane, how that even happened. And was he also I would think somebody because he was so powerful, was he cheating? Was he banging other ladies, or was he a relationship guy, kind of given this platform and now there's Diane and I'll just date Diane? But they sounded like they fought all the time. So who knows? Maybe, I don't know. This is just something that just came to me. And I'm and also, why would she ever fall for Bob Barker? Because wasn't he much older than her too? But women love men in power. Yep. The
money, power.
Stacey's making
power
the money.
Is intoxicating. Power is intoxicating to some women.
Janice and I first realized long before the rest of the set knew that Diane and Bob were having sex.
Diane confided in me, did you know I'm seeing Bob Barker? I'm like, what? Really? Oh, wow, okay. I was really kind of surprised because Bob also had a girlfriend. As time went on, people were noticing, the audience and the viewers at home, how close Bob and Diane were, hugging and looking at each other and playing around and all of that.
There's nothing. Well, this is just a big mix-up. There's more Price is Right coming up.
So it didn't really stay private very long. She would go downstairs during the breaks and go into his dressing room. And that's when some real hanky-panky was going on.
She suggested that I had been so straight-laced all my life that I needed some hanky-panky in my life. Now, that was the word she used, hanky-panky. And she volunteered to provide the hanky-panky in my life.
One day I was walking into the studio and walking past Bob's room. Well, she came walking out of that door, closing her robe with a big smile on her face. And I go, oh, what's going on here?
Thankfully, I'm not in the company of those type of women on this show.
How do you know?
And they did say she got perks, right? Didn't they say once Diane became the girlfriend that they're definitely she would be more promoted on camera?
Yeah, this reminds me. This reminds me of a little known guy named Corey Feldman's Angels. With the hierarchy of girls. Oh, yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, I was just thinking because of the Showcase Showdown, like what you said, the first showdown was the bad one, but then you'd have Diane come and do the good Showcase Showdown.
Right. And again, when you won the whole Showcase Showdown, I think you won both of the showcases.
If you did the number, so I think it's if you got closest without going over. You did get both, right? You did get both.
You got both. But again, like the first showcase was like, you know, a love seat and a sofa with a coffee table and a bookshelf. You know what I mean? And people would be like, and what's the second one? Everybody's like, okay, the second one.
A brand new car. I remember
a brand new car.
Like a brand new car.
Well, let's not promote the show here. I'm anxious to watch the show now.
Wait,
I want to get on the show.
I have a question for Dori. Who's your hottie of this episode? She always has a person that she thinks is hot.
Maybe Claudia Jordan. I don't think
about every woman.
So you swing both ways, huh?
Yeah, I really don't swing both ways. Unfortunately, I only swing one way. But I think that the beauty, I can admire beauty, and I think that probably. I mean, they all were really unattractive. I mean, not that like Holly, they're just older. You know, they're
now they are. Yeah,
But back in the day, I've never found Bob Barker attractive.
Really?
Ever.
Never.
Wow.
And the producer, the Nepo producer, looked really unattractive.
Oh God, he was a pig. Hey, I've been dying to pop in because it's really worth noting for our audience. Didn't you love the line that Diane gave when, you know, it was all over? They had the big argument and she storms out of his office. Do you remember that line?
What did she say? I forgot.
I wrote it down. I've sucked his dick for too many years to kiss his ass now.
That was the most, you know what? I can't believe I don't remember that because I want to repeat it someday. That is brilliant.
Yeah, it was. And a stagehand goes in response because everybody was around hearing this big argument.
Oh, yeah. It was like the set, the crew.
Yeah. And everybody was outside the door waiting for it to explode, which it did. And then when she said that line, this one stagehand or somebody goes, "Who's writing her lines?"
Yeah. But what a brilliant response to him, and just like a very brave.
The other thing that the documentary just brought out is how intelligent and dynamic these women were. They weren't just, you know, pieces of meat, you know, and cute things to look at. So brave. Holly Hellstrom, I believe is her name. Linda, the producer, Claudia, Elizabeth, Kathleen, all brave, courageous women. Holly Hellstrom, as you referenced, took 10 years to win her lawsuit against all these people, lost her house, was homeless for a while, and yet persisted on to get fairness and get what she deserved. And I mean, incredible. I mean, just
she's
incredible.
a cool woman, Holly. I liked her. I mean, she seemed to be featured a lot. I really liked all the women they interviewed. I thought they were great, and I thought they were strong and very sure of themselves and self-esteem. And you know, this inherent racism that people have is just poison.
Yeah, it's it's so fundamentally human wrong to treat, you know, any group of people the way that so many groups of people have been treated, you know, in our
here you are like in the studio audience of a show like this, and you're whatever race you are, and you're just excited to get up on that stage and meet that guy, and then he acts like a fucking cocksucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he just acts like a gross, either he's smarmy or he's just awful. And to feel that as a person that's it's just so deceiving. I don't know. It like bothers me. It's like a betrayal.
Don't you think that a lot of these people who went up there and acted so silly, these contestants, you know, and jumping around and things like that, you look at a tape of that show and you're embarrassed. You know, I don't think I'd show my appearance to any of my relatives or family.
I think they're probably coached to do that too, but it does like Stacey, you brought up like Corey Feldman too. Like I think about people who watch these documentaries about like celebrities that they love and that are people that they love, and they still don't think that that's true. Like I'm sure that there's a
Cognitive
lot
dissonance.
of Bob Barker stans out there that are like, that's not the Bob Barker I know and love. But
well, yeah, I mean, people do this all the time. I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
You know, is that cognitive dissonance, or is that like, yeah, I'm shocked. I had no idea.
I think the whole thing is produced and created for that illusion, right? You know, you both are in the entertainment world. It's the way it's portrayed, the way it's directed, the way it's produced, is that we're not looking at that. You know, we're looking at the big wheel going around, and we don't see that Bob Barker goes, hey, reach in my pocket and tickle my dick.
But nowadays, it's different. Now, I mean, John, maybe you should do that with your patients. Like, I have a Tic Tac in my book. Can you get this Tic Tac? But you know what, though, nowadays, too, a lot, because we do have social media and everything's so quick, and people get exposed right and left nowadays, that, to be honest, a lot of people won't have the careers like a Bob Barker did for a million years, where everybody thought he was America's, dad. And he wasn't really America's dad, but America's favorite game show host. Because of social media, things get turned upside down so quickly.
That's a good point.
That there really isn't.
Throw into the mix Johnny Carson. You know, how long Johnny Carson was, king of the late night TV. And he was, I don't think he's had any of this sex scandals or anything, but he was considered, he got to be kind
of an a-hole, right?
Yeah.
Difficult to work for.
Yeah. But they become in power, they're making a lot of money for the studio, and that's another thing we haven't brought up yet. The culpability of the studio and everybody around this that knew what was going on, and just tolerated it and participated in it.
Watching older episodes of The Price is Right today is pretty cringeworthy. And to just see the way that Bob handles women in general on the show. He would call contestants little girls.
Step back here, my child. I want to talk with you for just a minute.
He would comment on their appearance.
Now I'll watch you dress, you watch the wheel.
I think it's fair to say that he wanted to be like Hugh Hefner, or he wanted to be like Charlie with Charlie's Angels. That's just kind of how he saw the world,
Show them, everyone, what you can do with those lovely little dresses you have on today. Yeah, there they go, there they go.
And I think especially as it goes into the 90s and just that newfound freedom that women had to speak out.
I was very uncomfortable with the idea and told him so.
The world was changing.
Justice Ginsburg, will you raise your right hand and repeat after me?
But the culture backstage at The Price is Right didn't really change along with it.
When I initially started the show, everybody was pretty cool and really friendly, especially the crew. But over a course of time, I kind of noticed the guys were kind of talking, looking, gawking at the girls. I found out this was a little more commonplace than I thought.
It became common knowledge, stay away from this person or stay away from that person. There was stuff going on where you had to say, hey, stop that. One time I was in the elevator and one of the men just stuck their hands right on my boobs. I had to push them away. I didn't say anything. It became instinct to know how to handle it.
If anyone had gone to Bob, because Bob is in charge of the show, and said, I have a problem, I have a complaint, he would have told her to get over it or look for a new job.
Eventually, CBS, after receiving a lot of complaints about staff hitting on the models and staring at them and making creepy comments to them, they instated what they call the 10-second rule, where you were not allowed to openly stare at a model for more than 10 seconds.
10 seconds is a long time to stare at somebody. Yeah, it's crazy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It was something that was put in place to placate the people who were complaining about being objectified. And it wasn't, to my knowledge, enforced.
There was no one monitoring how long the guys were staring at the models. It was a joke. It was an appeasement. They did things that made it look like they were taking action. So you will stop complaining and go away.
The show was making a lot of money. The show was making millions. And so I think that it behooved them to sweep those things under the rug.
Which was really hard because Bob started having sex with Diane. It took a toll. There was fighting on the sets, yelling, and it was massive. And it ultimately, I think, destroyed Price is Right.
But again, in this day and age, there would be whistleblowers. They would never, I just don't think,
Hopefully.
I do think, of course it happens. I mean, we see all these like Nickelodeon, the Nickelodeon documentary and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it definitely happens. But I think that because people are more encouraged to say something nowadays, and because people are videoing everything, and like hopefully there are more people speaking up about terrible environments like this. Obviously they still exist. We all, like, some of us can say we work in environments that are terrible like this, but hopefully more people are speaking up about it.
Oh, sorry,
I think that, I think that's one of the most important messages of our show here today, which is that people, women, men, whoever, speak up when there's an unjust situation going on.
So, and this reminds me, and I know I bring up the Duggars a lot, but this is the same thing with TLC. Being in that home all those years with had to have known, because off camera, they were not the same people. And we're finding out more and more that, like, this is alleged. So, audience, this is alleged. Allegedly, most of the sons have the same issues. If
with
not all
child with molestation
with
of their
pedophilia,
sisters, molestation, with children,
forcing themselves on women. And here's what's happening. People in power, whether it's the network, whether it's CBS, whether it's TLC, whether it's, the country, people are protecting this environment because of power and money and because of the fear of being fired.
Well, is there any difference between a predator, a sexual predator, a dirty, sloppy, creepy predator who grooms a child that they're going to abuse, to say, don't tell anything because I will hurt your mommy and daddy, than Bob Barker, who said, nobody can say anything because you will be fired. You will, we'll throw lawsuits at you.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera. There's no difference. It's the same type of dynamic of, I will hurt you if you say anything.
I will take you. So I have to isolate you. I have to get you in a certain position so that you have to rely on me. And I can't, you have to count on me. If you start to break down that person's, relationships and stuff like that, there's nothing they can do. They're stuck.
Right. And here's the other, I think, important point for the audience that is a little bit of a tangent, but it really brought out in the documentary. Because if you watch the documentary, well, okay, they just throw lawsuits back and forth. I'm going to sue Bob Barker, and everybody did. Let me tell you, because I work with attorney in my forensic work, I work with, many attorneys and expert witness in lawsuits, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, as the attorneys tell me, you can sue anybody for anything. You can file a lawsuit. It costs you in Cook County, Illinois, $175 to file a lawsuit. But what are the consequences and results of filing a lawsuit? A lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of pain that goes through it. So audience, if you watch a documentary like that, go, well, ultimately our powers will just sue. Yeah. That, as Holly demonstrated, 10 years, lost everything, was sleeping in her car.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
right. I remember, and it's so sad. I mean, that's just disgusting to leave these women in that kind of position after everything they went through. And I'm going to say, as a
Who also made the show. Like
made the show.
They, as much as Bob Barker, they were 50%. Like they were.
Come on, you want men were watching the show for Vanna White and Wheel of Fortune, and for these women, and the men watched this. It brought in that audience because it's usually, if Price is Right, it's all dependent on, like, this from production and stuff, but like when the show airs is the audience they're shooting for. So mothers, housewives, and people at home. If it's at noon on a Tuesday, or noon weekly, that's not men, because they're working, quote unquote. I'm making quote signs. So your audience, you play the show when that audience is watching. But if you also bring in another element, then you're going to get more people.
I feel like I need to go watch the Drew Carey Price is Right now. I feel like I need to go and
see
watch.
if he has anybody put his hand in his pocket or something.
Do you need to bathe in the Drew Carey version?
I've never seen it. I'm kind of curious.
I hate to say
let
this,
me know
and maybe
how it goes.
maybe I'm going to ask Jeremy to take this out. But as a hormonal young man, I probably should have known more about The Price is Right. I would have been,
Oh, yeah.
as a teenager, a preteen, and a teenager. I would have had my tongue waggling and other things.
Well, speaking of that, did Diane or did Janice do Playboy? What did they say?
Diane.
So that was
Diane
Bob's.
did Playboy.
Bob's
and that was one of the first things that Bob got upset about, was that.
Oh, I'm sure that pissed him off. Because he wasn't in charge of that, and that was,
Narcissists don't share. Narcissists don't share.
And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I watch a lot of documentaries on Playboy, and let's not even get into Hugh Hefner, because that guy too was also discussing. Maybe we'll do one down the road. Maybe we'll do something on Hugh Hefner down the road, because he was, I think, even worse than Bob Barker.
You were due our series on disgusting white men.
Yes.
Hey, what about
Dr.
our scumbag
John, we won't
Hall of
include
Fame?
you.
What, John?
How about our scumbag Hall of Fame? Do we nominate Bob Barker for the scumbag Hall of Fame? He might be our
Bob
MVP.
Barker, and he's a scumbag. But you're probably right. Hugh Hefner had a lot more hands in a lot of things, and he was,
I mean, no pun intended, Stacey, but he did have his hand.
Yes,
in a lot of
no
things.
pun intended. I guess my final thing I'd say is, let's make sure that you report these things. Say something, do something, tell people, tell other people. If nobody will listen, tell somebody else.
I just got through taking my annual HIPAA certification. As a doctor, we have to, be certified to obey HIPAA laws, etc. And they make such a big point, which I agree with wholeheartedly, that if you hear any violations of HIPAA laws, report immediately. And I think that's the huge message of this episode: is you're in a situation where you're being abused or potentially being abused, get the hell out of there. Women, stand up, men, stand up, but don't let this build like it we're seeing in cases like this. Can we do the promo for our friends Midnight Current? Can we do a little promo on their new album?
I like how Dori does it.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I do have to get going.
You didn't get the memo, so to speak. I sent an email.
Where's the memo? Where is it?
Don't worry, I can tell you the memo.
Okay.
Our good friends Midnight Current, who do our theme music, have their first album out, and our theme song is prominently in their new album, and their new album is getting radio play.
All right, how's this? All right. Shout out to Midnight Current, who does our theme song. They just came out with a new album called Swell Sounds. Pick it up. Get it.
Grab it.
Grab it. Okay, I like that. Grab it. Like all these white dudes grab the young girl.
Grab it.
Don't grab Bob Barker's.
I know. Don't go in his pocket and grab it.
For more about us and to catch up on every episode of Pod Candy, head over to podcandypodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Please stay tuned to our next episode, Trust Me, The False Prophet on Netflix.
Pod Candy!